Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. So, growing up, I always remember my parents taught me that whenever someone asks you something and you tell them something, you always say beli neder, which is the Hebrew word means without a promise. That means although I'm telling you I'm going to meet you at 2 o'clock, I'm saying beli neder, that in case I come late or in case I can't make it there, it shouldn't be implied that I promised you something that I'm not going to do. And it was a very powerful lesson, because sometimes you might think, oh, what's the big deal? I just said, hey, I'll meet you tomorrow for lunch at 2. Why do I have to say beli neder without promise? Obviously, there's no commitment. I just said it. But no. This week's Torah portion teaches us something very important. The Torah says, Lo yachel dvaro kechol hayotze mipiv yaseh. You shouldn't desecrate your word. Everything that comes out of your mouth, you should keep. We live in a society where people say one thing, but they mean something else. And in fact, they never have the intention to keep their word. They say something because they want to get you to do it, or they want you to commit to something else. But in fact, they never had the intention to keep what they said. And many people, lawyers, make a living out of looking over contracts to make sure there's no loophole, that even when you not just say something, but you sign a contract and you make a commitment, people are still looking for loopholes, how to get out of it. And you have lawyers that all they do is look over contracts to make sure that what you said and what you sign is actually what you intend to keep. But the Torah doesn't see it that way. And in Torah view, the words you say are so important that when you say a word, lo yachel dvaro, you shouldn't desecrate your words. Whatever comes out of your mouth, you got to keep. The Torah teaches us that words matter, and what we say is important. You know how we say you have the gentleman's handshake, where you don't have to sign a contract. I shook your hand, I'm going to do whatever I do because that was my commitment. When we grew up, my parents would always say, this person, you have nothing to worry about. If they said something, you don't need a piece of paper, you don't even need a handshake, you don't need a down payment. Once they said it, their word is precious, and their word is going to be kept. And that's something very important that the Torah wants us to understand and live by. Don't think words don't matter. Don't think you could say one thing but have in mind something else, or you could break your words. You find many people that tell you something, but they have no intention of keeping it. And in fact, they're intending to break it. Says the Torah, Lo yachel dvaro. Know how important words are in Torah. And that's why it's a Jewish tradition that whenever you make a commitment, you say beli neder, without a promise, to show that even though you actually intend to keep it, you're protecting your word because you know how much words matter and how honest you have to be and how much integrity you have to have in the words you say. There's a story, one of the teachers we had growing up in yeshiva was Rabbi Yaakov Shvei. Rabbi Yaakov Shvei, him and his brother grew up in Uzbekistan, and unfortunately when they were very young, he was only 8 years old, his father passed away. And his mother really wanted to send Yankel and his brother Isaac, his older brother Isaac, to yeshiva. But the problem was that in Uzbekistan there was no yeshiva. But she heard of a yeshiva in Samarkand. Samarkand, another place in Russia where many of the Jews ran away from the Nazis, and she heard there was a yeshiva there. And she really wanted her kids to go, her 2 boys. But to get passports or to get papers for her and her kids to go was almost impossible. But she managed to get papers for her 2 boys to go to Samarkand, to go to yeshiva. But her younger son, Yankel, was hesitant. He was 8 years old. He was going to miss his mother. And his mother pleaded with him. She said, please, you have to go. You have to learn in yeshiva. If you don't have yeshiva values, what's going to be with you? And she says, I promise you I'm going to come to visit you. I'm going to come to be with you. Give me time. I'm going to get the papers. You go. You and your brother got permission. And eventually I'll come visit you. Sure enough, a year and a half later, his mother gets papers and she comes to Samarkand to see her son. And when she comes to the train, there was a once-a-day train that went from Uzbekistan to Samarkand. And it came every day at the same time, but it was 12 or 1 o'clock. And when she showed up to the train station on that given day, her son Yankel was waiting for her. And she said, Yankel, what are you doing here? How did you know I was coming today? And Yankel looked at his mother and says, Mother, I didn't know you were coming today, but you promised me, you told me, you gave me your word you were coming. So every single day, at the time that the train would come, I knew what time the train comes, and I would always be here to check if you were coming because I trusted you. I knew that if you said something, you were going to keep it. What a powerful message. How many people today, when they say a word, do you know that they mean that? And you could trust them that their word is going to be a word that's going to be kept. That's the message the Torah gives us in the beginning of the first portion of Matos. Lo yachel dvaro, don't desecrate your word. Whatever you say, you should do. And that's where the value of Bali Neder comes from. It teaches us the power of words. God bless you. May all your words be good words. May all your words be used for positive, and may you always keep the words you say.